am so excited that you are here. You're here because I am sharing my story on why I went gluten-free. And it honestly, believe it or not, it makes me nervous to speak in front of other people. And it really scares me to share personal details that, that are not pretty. It's the good, bad, and the ugly. So if you're watching this, just know I'm just going to be real because perfect is boring, right? So I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to share all the details of why I went gluten-free. So here we go. And I have some notes in front of me so I don't forget anything that I want to share with you. So if you see me looking down, that's why. So you might be here because you have some health issues and you're maybe thinking about going gluten-free, or maybe you're just here because you want some information about what is gluten. Maybe you don't even know what gluten-free is, or maybe you have a gluten allergy or gluten intolerance and you're just here to hear my story so we can relate to each other, or you're just wanting to get some meal ideas, recipes, and that is awesome too. So if you are joining in here and you are not in my free Facebook group, just message me and I will get you added to it. I have a free meal plan for you guys with some of my favorite recipes and my favorite gluten-free, dairy-free cupcakes and all of that good jazz. So let me know if you want in, just message me and I'd be happy to have you in. I really wanted to do this. It really, like I said, it really scares me to share my story and put myself out there, but I really wanted to do this because I was just convicted that I didn't want to share something personal, but I really think it will be really helpful, and I just pray that it's really helpful for the person who's listening to this who has health issues and who is struggling, and they, maybe this is an answer for them. So I just couldn't keep a lid on that light. So that's why I'm doing this. So I really hope it's helpful, or maybe you have a friend or a family member who you think this will be helpful for, and you guys can definitely share this with them as well. So let's get started. So my story. Growing up, I had eczema on the insides of my arms, on the back of my neck, back of my legs, and I had that all growing up. And it was really bad in the summertime when I was sweating and running outside and playing soccer and all of that good jazz. And so that was one of my symptoms of a gluten allergy. I didn't know it at the time, and my poor mom, she didn't know either. I know she feels bad. And then I always had a snotty nose as a kid. I was always the one that you would see, burgers and just snot. It was just gross, but I was always that way growing up. And I had sinus infection after sinus infection. I remember in college, I had 4 sinus infections a year for multiple years. It was like right when I could breathe, I'd get another sinus infection. And I did not know that was related either. In high school, I started having really bad, it kind of escalated. I started having really bad pains in my stomach. So they started kind of doing some tests on me and thought, oh, maybe I had ulcers or IBS, or they just kept saying, oh, it may be this. And they didn't really ever give me a definite answer. And then in college, it really escalated and I was getting shooting pains, and I would go to the ER and they would tell me it was just gas. And I'm like, are you joking me? Like, I feel like my ovary's gonna burst. I was going in there and they were like, oh, it's probably your appendix, or it's probably an ovary getting ready to burst, so we'll keep you. And nope, it was just gas. Like, really? Isn't that just silly? And speaking about gas, I always, whenever I would eat gluten, I would always have really stinky farts right afterwards. Like, I would eat it and it would be like not even 2 minutes later, I was like Rudy Toot Tootin'. So that was another thing that I did not know until I eliminated it, that this was like, oh, it's not normal to do that. And I was every possible thing in my stomach was going on. I had gas, I had bloating, I had constipation, diarrhea, shooting pains. I mean, the whole works. Everything you can think of, that's what was going on in my stomach. And I just want to make sure once I get going, I'm like, whoa, I'm going off on tangents. Okay, so this was something I didn't know. So whenever I eliminated gluten, some of these things popped, but I had no idea. So I used to have, my ears used to pop a lot, and I just had like pressure in them. And that's gone away. I'm able to focus, probably because my ears don't hurt. I'm able to focus more clearly, and I have more energy now than I did when I was younger. And I've had a baby, and you know you're supposed to, your energy is supposed to decrease, right? But once I figured this out, I feel good now that I don't eat gluten, and it's just so much better. So how did I find out that I had a gluten allergy? Let's see, yes, I was in college, and I was going to a chiropractor, and I was kind of telling him about my issues, and he goes, "Oh, let me do some muscle testing on you. It's really weird, but it really works." So he did some muscle testing on me, and this is Dr. Gray's in Independence, and it showed that I had, also called applied kinesiology, I believe. And so he had these tubes that I put my fingers on, and I put my arm up, and basically your arm goes down if you have an intolerance to those things. So it went down on gluten and corn for me. So gluten, wheat, and corn. So I'm like, okay, what do I do now? This is like 3.5 years ago. This is like before gluten-free is like the cool new thing to do, where they make all these breads and all these resources for gluten-free. So I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So I kind of floundered by myself for a while, just trying to figure out, okay, what is gluten? What can I have? I just thought, okay, I can't have bread. Well, gluten is in spices. It's in just really in a lot of things, right, that you wouldn't even think that it's in. So I got discouraged, and honestly, I floundered back and forth in it. I'd go gluten-free for a while, and then I would have a pizza, because let's be real, gluten tastes good, and I will admit that. So I floundered back and forth, and then finally I started having more issues, and God brought this amazing woman into my life that I met through church. Her name's Andrea, and she told me about a doctor who did a blood test for her, and she really helped me out. But I took a blood test with a doctor, and it actually showed gluten, corn, wheat, and dairy. So I had all of those things. I'm like, okay, now what? And my friend Andrea, she was so great. She helped me with recipes and how to shop and all that good jazz. So I didn't feel totally lost. But this was still before gluten-free, before they made gluten-free breads. I had to make my own bread. I had to make my own crackers. I need to share the recipe with you guys. It was so much work, but these crackers are so good. So if I wanted just like an easy snack like that, or pretzels, I just had to make them myself. I couldn't just go to the store like you can now. It was quite a challenge. So now that you guys kind of know my story, how is my life different now? Now that I don't eat gluten, and I also don't have dairy or corn as well, but I thought it would be way too long of a title. Do you want to be gluten-free, dairy-free, and corn-free? Like, you lost me at gluten-free. So I just narrowed it down for the purpose of this group. So I have been gluten-free for quite a while now, and like I said, I have increased energy levels. Within 1 week of me eliminating gluten, my rash went away. And if I do introduce it back, my rash comes back. So I know they're directly related, because I know there's some studies out there that say intolerances aren't really a thing. But for me, I'm not a doctor, and maybe eczema is also related to other things, but for me personally in my journey, it's directly related to food. Isn't it so crazy, like the power that food has on our bodies and what it can do? So my eczema went away. I've had maybe one sinus infection in the past 4 or 5 years, and I used to have them all the time. I hardly ever have a runny nose unless I get a cold, which is very, very rare. And those used to be constant things in my life. And like I said, I had that ear pressure and popping often. I rarely ever have that. I don't even have that anymore. So those are like, isn't that just so exciting? And to have more energy. Who couldn't use more energy? I definitely need energy to keep up with my 1-year-old son. So that's why I went gluten-free. And I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. And I definitely need some breads. Oh, okay, I do want to share this too. So maybe you are trying to find out if you should, it's like, okay, great. So you had all these issues, you went to these doctors, like what should I do? I would definitely recommend, I will post below the doctors that I went to if you're here local. For the blood testing, but a lot of primary doctors now are doing, they're also doing the intolerance testing, not just the gluten allergy or the actual allergy to that. And so those tests are called the ALLCAT and the ALL test. So I'll post all that info below. So if you're trying to figure out if any of this is resonating with you, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. That's where I would start. So start with your primary care doctor, see if they do those tests. And then if not, you can go to a holistic doctor. I have two that I like, and you can get blood testing done there as well. It's a little bit expensive, but I'm telling you, I would pay twofold, tenfold, honestly, what I paid for how I feel now to find out what those issues were. Or maybe you know you have allergies and you don't have a community or support to help you. I know for me that was huge. I could not go gluten-free. I wouldn't have gone gluten-free if I hadn't met my friend Andrea, who was living the walk, and she just pulled me right alongside her and helped me out and taught me different recipes and just showed me how you can substitute and all that good jazz. So I'm going to be sharing all that with you in this group as well. So next up on our videos, we're going to talk about my favorite store buys, because you can just go to the store and buy some super awesome bread. And I'll teach you what to substitute recipes for, so you can make any recipe gluten-free. And just some other different fun little things. Oh, my favorite restaurants as well here locally. And you can also Google gluten-free restaurants. There's an app now too that you can use, but I'll share my favorite if you're here local in this area. So if you guys need anything or have any questions, just let me know. I really do want to know if my story resonates with you at all, if you have some skin allergies, or you know, one thing I forgot to say too is I would break out in these like horrible big pimples too. Like they were the painful ones that lasted the whole week. And I would call myself a unicorn or whatever. And that I get a zit every once in a while. I don't know if it's directly related. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just sharing my journey with you. And I hardly ever break out because I'm not eating gluten or dairy or corn now either. And I did have a blood test done for the actual celiac disease, the gluten allergy, and it showed negative. But I had all of these negative effects in my life. And it was like, okay, something is really going on. And it turns out, yep, I did. I had a gluten, dairy, and corn intolerance. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. And I just hope you have to let me know for sure if any of this relates to you. But it's been awesome sharing with you. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. And like I said, if you aren't in my free gluten-free group, just message me and I will get you added so you can have all these benefits and the recipe ideas and the meal planning and all in my community and support as well. Okay guys, have an awesome day.